me and Drew Findling talked about this. The nonsense you've seen on these stands with like Lil Woody or Megan's friend that had one story one day, they get on the stand and suddenly forget and change their story and all that, does not work that way in the feds. You tell your story, you're locked in, you get on the stand, you say exactly what you said before.
You just don't see that in federal litigation. People are locked in. I mean, they are locked in. They're in front of grand juries. They're at multiple interviews. So you're looking at false statement cases. You're looking at perjury cases for the person if they do a 180, right?
They're also doing something really interesting, and I actually like it, even though I like Durk, because they're playing the game so well, and also they're so in tune with what the opposition, and I'm gonna say opposition tongue-in-cheek wise because we're talking about lawyers here. They know what Durk's lawyers are trying to do. For example, Drew Findling came on my podcast as well, like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Durk posted something on his Instagram. They see it. They know what's going on. Durk and his PR team is trying to put out an image and put out a message saying, Durk is wrongly prosecuted, and he's only prosecuted because of lyrics. You guys have seen this before. YSL and other things. This would drum up some public outcry. People would be like, yo, what's going on? Demand more answers, make the process a little bit whatever. Also, that might rattle some of the witnesses who then feel like they have to, stay on code. What they did that was really interesting that YSL prosecutors didn't do, they stayed in court for hundreds of days talking about lyrics. They even played the songs. You know what the prosecutors did? Durk filed a motion to dismiss saying, you guys use lyrics with a fan-made video. They went back in that week and got a new superseding indictment and removed the lyrics completely. What does that prove, lad? That actually proves we don't need the lyrics.
Yeah.
The lyrics was just icing on the cake. The lyrics was just to sensationalize this. We have you in a probable cause sense that you committed this crime without using any lyrics. And most times when indictments are filed, when we talk about it on social media, we say this person got indicted for their lyrics. You got First Amendment right. You can't get indicted for your lyrics.
Well, yeah, because the feds actually responded to Drew Findling, and they said defendant Banks has presented a false narrative that he's being prosecuted and detained because of his violent lyrics. The claim is, and has always been, baseless. He should remain detained pending trial.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, them removing the lyrics, it actually neutralizes the next 2 months for Durk. Because all Durk's motions, even PR-wise, why do you think that Drew Findling did your show and mine? I got a call. They said, Durk's lawyer wants to fly in to do your show. And I said, really? I said, I'll do it. Love Drew Findling, but...
Yeah, me and Drew had dinner last week, and I brought up the idea about doing an interview. He goes, let me check. Let me check with Durk, and let me check with his management.
Yeah.
And apparently, like Durk has new management now. So his new management guy came by. He was sitting, behind us. I remember a couple of times I made a couple of mistakes. He was like, oh, it's actually this. I'm like, okay, you're right, my bad. So, and afterwards, he basically was like, listen, I know you and Durk had some problems back in the day. He's not tripping. He's good. He's obviously has more problems. He actually personally okayed Drew doing the interview with you. So I think once I brought that idea and he knew he was coming to New York, he probably hit you up as well, which made perfect sense. And it was like, okay, I'm going to go on a little mini media run to push a narrative, which is cool. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and again, it's to drum up public support for Durk. But we have to look at what the feds did. They neutralized the whole thing.
Yeah, by just throwing out the whole lyric thing altogether.
We're not using lyrics no more.
Yeah, the end.
So what are you going to say now? So it puts in a very precarious situation. They're playing a little bit of chess. Eventually, the Roosters are going to have to come home. And what that means is that we're going to have to see what they got on them. They're going to have to announce at some point who these co-conspirators are. Did the person who gave the drop, that was the supposed Rolling 60s member, is that person, who is that person? Is that person going to testify? Who's the person who was the shooter, who is not named in the indictment? Is he going to testify?
I thought
There's co-conspirator 2. He's the shooter.
Well, there's multiple shooters, right?
Yeah,
or just one shooter.
There's 3 shooters.
Right.
One is not named.
Okay, got it. But the other 2 are named.
Yes. So and they're in custody.
Right.
The one that's not named, we don't know who it is, and we don't know if they're in custody, but we're assuming they are, which only tells us they're probably cooperating. And we all know how it goes. Look at a Dolph case. When you have one of the shooters ready to tell, usually sinks the ship. You know what I mean? Loose lips, literally, all pun intended, will sink that ship. So we'll see what that person wants to say. And also, here's the thing. This is why another reason they don't want Durk to get out no bond. We don't know who these snitches are. Durk knows. Definitely knows, without even getting the discovery.
Huh.
Because let's say this was real. We don't know if it's real. I think Durk is innocent. I was going to wear my Free Durk shirt today. I don't think he would do such a thing, right? He's a good guy. But it was 3 shooters. If Durk and his people did that, they would know the snitch is a person who ain't named. He's going to be incarcerated. You still have money and power in the reach, even in the jail system. Let's make sure that guy get touched. Let's make it hard for him. Let's make him reconsider. You see why they don't want Durk out? Again, if that shooter doesn't show up and say, yeah, I was talking to Didi, I heard him on the phone with Durk, when Durk said he was gonna give us a 20 ball, and all we had to do is make sure we clip this dude. That's gonna be an important fucking testimony. If he doesn't say that, or he now, the feds forced me, they coerced me to sign this thing. This had nothing to do with Durk. I did it by myself. Different situation. So I think the feds are also playing those angles, and I wouldn't be surprised if, we see further, like in other detention hearings, right? Further arguments from the government maybe citing fears about the safety of some of the people who are going to be their case, which is the main witnesses. Trust, watch.